On this episode of the Ask Mike Reinold Show, we talk about some of the strategies we use to specialize in a niche population.
The Ask Mike Reinold Show. Helping people feel better, move better, and perform better.
Before we get to the podcast, I wanted to make sure you knew about my free online course on the Introduction to Performance Therapy and Training. If you want to learn how to get started optimizing and enhancing performance, this is the course for you. Head to mikereinold.com/performance to sign up today. Welcome back to the latest episode of the Ask Mike Reinold Show. I'm here at Champion PT and Performance with our amazing crew of physical therapists and strength coaches, or some of them at least. But we are here answering your questions. Anything you want to talk about, head to mikereinold.com, click on that podcast link and ask away. Anything you want to talk, physical therapy, sports PT, business, career advice, sports performance, just ask away and we will keep answering. Let's see. Today we have Mike Scaduto, Dewesh Podell, Lenny Macrina, Dave Tilley, Dan Pope, and Jonah Monlock all here for you. Lenny, who do we have for students today? We had some new students to introduce.
We do. And I am trying to figure out where they are from. Just kidding. No, I know everybody well.
Lenny's behind.
Yeah, trust me, this morning. Anyway, we have from left to right that you guys will not watch on your screen. Michaela Meyer, St. Francis University. Nailed it first time. Sean Riley, kind of forgot about you, not going to lie. Creighton University. Sarah Catherine. We have Sarah Catherine from Belmont University in beautiful Nashville. And we have Catherine Biddle from Northern Illinois University. Weird email address from Northern Illinois University. Weird email address, not going to lie.
What's the email?
It's like letters and numbers at CIA.org.
I like it. Cryptic.
Just kidding.
Right? I like it. That's good, though. We want to keep their identities hidden and not know who it's from. So awesome. That's great. And we also have Lisa Lowe joining us today, jumping on as well. So, all right, what do we have for our first question today?
Kristen from West Virginia asks, I see everyone at Champion seems to have a niche population that they work with. How do you specialize, and is it possible to work solely with a small niche population?
Great job, Catherine. I think we start this off with our yearly poll of, is it niche or niche? And comment below. No, I'm just kidding. It would be the same comment, right? How would you comment differently? But is it niche or niche? What do you think?
Oh, age-old question.
I say niche.
Niche because it's a quiche. It's not a kitsch, it's a quiche. So it's a niche.
Quiche.
I try to avoid saying the word.
Niche.
Dewesh just goes specialty at all times. But I want to hear from our Canadian friend. Jonah, what do you guys say in Canada?
Definitely niche.
Catherine's Canadian.
We're not talking about the philosopher Nietzsche or whoever that guy was. So yeah, it's niche.
I didn't even think Nietzsche was an option. Wow, I didn't even think of that. All right, let's get to the question. So, Kristen, right? Yeah, Kristen, great question. We do kind of all specialize in a niche. I'm going to use my terminology of a niche population here at Champion. But I will say this before we get into the episode: we all do a lot of things, right? And I think we're all good at a lot of things. There's plenty of things I know I am not that good at, right, in the physical therapy world. But having a niche doesn't mean that you only work with one population or one joint or one injury, like that type of thing. But what it does mean is that you're really good at a small subset of things here. And we say this a lot on the podcast, like that whole comment, like the riches are in the niches. I do think that's true. So I'm supportive of this quest of people having the niche. Now, I do want to clarify that Rich's comment too. Like, sure, could you make a business off a special population? Absolutely. But when I say the riches are in the niches with a niche or a niche, right? I'm still confused. But when I say that, I think it's about the quality of your life, right? And that's how I want to kind of frame this episode a little bit here. When you work with that special population that you like to work with the most, you have a blast all day. And I think that's part of the secret to our success at Champion is that we get to work with the people we love to work with that bring us energy as therapists, right? So Kristen asked this, and to be honest with you, I had about 3 of these questions in the queue that were all the same, and most of them were around the thought of a young professional saying like, is it too early for me to specialize? So I kind of wanted you guys to think about that too. But gosh, you guys all have good niches and niches. You have both. Who wants to start this one off? Let's start with Dave Tilley, who I think has probably one of the stronger niches of the group and a very small clinical subset of people that you love working with. So Dave, what do you got?
Yeah, just kind of hitting the main things you're saying. So one is that, I was able to start into like the niche work, like right from the start, right? So like the clinic that I worked at, it was really just a matter of getting out there and talking to people in the community, visiting gyms, letting them know that I was available. And sure, it started with one person a week, 2 gymnasts a week, like every other week. And most of my stuff was general population. But I think it's sometimes people overanalyze what they have to do. Like, working hard and being nice never let anyone down. So like if you just treat one person well, they go back to their teammates, they go, hey, this person understands rowing or baseball or CrossFit or whatever. Like, I think you should maybe check it out. Like, so I know we have people who are frustrated with maybe these types of injuries or like the fact that someone doesn't really understand their situation. So, 1 becomes 2, 2 becomes 4, and you just got to be patient with how many people come through the door and just make sure that you're over delivering, right? You have to, be willing to go the extra mile and phone call people and drop by their gym, talk to their parents for a half hour when they're concerned about something or help them get through a tough time. And a lot of that stuff is not paid on hours, right? And I think that's a really big part of it is just being willing to go the extra mile and care about people and help them. And then, unfortunately, you can't be bad at physical therapy. Like you have to actually know how to help these people pretty well and what to do. So that's the first thing. But I don't know. The other piece, I think people take it sometimes that we only treat one type of sport. Like I would say any given time based on the season, maybe half my schedule is gymnasts, right? So if I treat 30 people a week, maybe 15 or so are going to be, gymnasts from all walks of life, but it comes in waves too. Like now's a perfect example. It's championship season right now in gymnastics. So people are out competing, right? So I only had, a handful of people that were gymnasts there here and there, but give it 2 months when May comes, the college girls come home and the guys come home. It's going to be, 75 to 80% of my schedule will be gymnasts and I'll be up to my eyeballs with people. So I think you have to realize that, yes, it's great to work in a niche and population, but like, I treated a 70-year-old woman, right after that, I treated like a younger kid who had nothing to do with it. It's a soccer player, so yeah, a lot of what we do, I think is niche, but a lot of what we do, I think is general sports, general orthopedics. So like, I think we're the most specialized maybe. And sometimes there's days where I really don't treat a gymnast and you have to be okay with that.
And I think that's a really good point that people need to really understand here. Dave has a very strong target, right? And he still doesn't work with gymnasts 100% of the time, right? So, kind of keep that in mind. But I love how Dave brought like your attention towards like almost like the marketing aspect of it is like, yeah, you might be the smartest person in the world to work with gymnasts or rowers or CrossFit athletes, whatever you want to specialize in. But if nobody knows about it, right? It's like just, if a tree falls in the forest, nobody's there. That might not be the right phrase, but you know what I think you get my point. Like if you have this gift, this knowledge, but nobody knows about it, then that's part of specializing in a niche too, is making sure you get out in front of people, which is something we've talked about a lot of times. So I want to hear from Dan Pope, but I think based on what I just said there, I want to go to Lisa and Mike a little bit here, because Lisa and Mike, we witnessed start a niche from zero to a good thriving practice, right? Like Dan and Dave came in already specialized, so it was like easier to see those guys dominate. But Lisa, how'd you get started developing your niche in rowing athletes? And then we'll bounce to Mike the same with golf. You're muted, Lisa.
There we go. Can you hear me? Yeah. So yeah, I mean, I started building my niche doing volunteer pro bono work at my boathouse. So I would bring my table and just like let people know, hey, I'll be there for these times. Or if I had certain people that I knew were kind of working on something, we'd like actually arrange. So That was probably the first 5-ish years of like while I was working. Like I did pediatrics to start with, right? Because it was the most flexible schedule I could have while I was training for rowing. Um, so I spent my time training for rowing, treating my teammates on the side for free, and then, kind of once I retired, so to speak, from the higher level stuff, my dream was to then be like, okay, rowing is my happy place. So how do I surround myself with that all day at work? And so kind of like you said, Mike, it's like you know, you want to have fun being at work, and rowers make me really happy. So it's like it's become just like this really fun thing of that's who I get to hang out with for a lot of my day. But similar to Dave, right? It's not my entire day. I get excited when it gets to be my whole day because sometimes that happens. But I also, love the other athletes I get to work with too. And the cool part about rowing is it's everything from a high schooler to I had like a almost 70-year-old on my table yesterday, right? Like it's a really broad range of people that are just happy to be doing what they love and that you can help them and you can speak their language. Um,
That's
so
huge. Yeah.
yeah.
Speaking the language is huge, right? And what I think a good takeaway from Lisa's thoughts here too that I got here was that she donated her time at the beginning, and she was probably honing her craft more than she even realizes, right? It's rowing because she's a rower, right? Like you're probably going to get into a niche that you completely understand. If you don't, you probably need to take a step back. But like you have to understand it. Rowing, physical therapy, the body, but then you have to put it together, and that's what makes you special when you do a niche, is that you understand the sport, right, or the population, and then you understand the body in physical therapy. You put it together. But awesome, Lisa. Mike, what did you do getting into golf? Because I know this was like a big topic for you to try to get started with what you're most passionate about. What were some of your tips?
Yeah, for sure. I think when we look at, how we start out in a niche, I'm going niche, and then how we end up growing that niche, I think, hopefully you have a physical therapy clinic that will help you advertise or help promote that niche for you. So at Champion, we put on our website, we have TPI assessments, and so anyone that's searching for that in the area, they're going to find our website. They're going to come see me. I'm going to be the first touch point. Hopefully then that can spread via word of mouth. So I think, communicating with the manager or the higher up in the clinic, say, hey, can we promote this in some way or run a special deal on an assessment during a certain season when I know it's going to be more busy, is an important step to take. I think also in terms of growing, I think you have to look at who are the influencers within that field that have the most touch points with the people you want to work with. So for golf, like golf instructors are seeing golfers all day long, right? That's all they do. So you go out, you communicate with them, you build a relationship with the instructor. They send you the first person. You want to do your best with everybody, but you better make sure you give that person a good experience. You build that relationship. Now you have kind of a pipeline from that golf instructor. Once you start to build kind of a reputation within the community, more golf instructors will start sending people your way. So I think in order to go from zero to growing it into something that can be very sustainable, have the clinic, work with the clinic to try and promote your niche, and then also get in with the influencers that are working with those people every day.
That's awesome. Good stuff, Mike. And, it was fun to watch that kind of grow. And Mike really, took that lead, I think, with the golf instructors. And maybe that's unique to some sports, right? That most golfers they probably know they need swing lessons and they don't know that they need to work on their body, right? It's an awareness thing. So it's good to kind of create that connection. But Dan, obviously you had a strong niche in the weightlifting population. Again, that was your background. You have an online presence. You had this whole thing. So, you had this strong niche, and then you moved across the country basically and started over. So tell us a little bit about that experience and how you got that going again.
Yeah, so that was tough. And I did that twice, and I've talked about this a lot, so I won't go too crazy, When I was in New Jersey, I worked a lot of local gyms. I was already kind of traveling around speaking, like all the athletes kind of knew me, the coaches knew me, things were great. Really pumped to start my career in New Jersey, and then we moved to Colorado. And that was horrible because I had to start over from square one, right? And I used all the same strategies that Lisa, Dave, and Mike just talked about. And then I moved again to Boston, did the same thing. So I've done it a few times now, right? And I guess to answer the question, initial questions, yes, I think you can. One of the things I think that students have the thought of is they're like, okay, I'm starting my career and I want to work with this population. I need to find like the exact clinic that has all of these athletes there, right? And that certainly does work, but I also think it creates a lot of anxiety because it's like, all right, we got to figure out where you want to live. You got to have the right salary. Do you have a family, right? Is it reasonable to move across the country? One of the things I did a couple times, but really with my first job in Colorado, is that I found a clinic that I just thought was supportive, that had a bunch of good kind of mentors and smart professionals. And when I started, I saw zero of the people in my niche, right? And that was okay. I just built it. And I kind of got a few of my first patients, and kind of like Dave was saying and Mike was saying, you do a really good job, you do some additional marketing, you get some more people through the door, and eventually maybe you're treating 80% geriatrics, but now all of a sudden you have 5 to 10% of that is like strength and fitness athletes. You start doing a little less geriatrics, a bit more of the population you like. And at Champion, I think Lisa said this too, like some days 100% of the people you see are the population that you enjoy working with, right? I think we're fortunate because we all really like sports PT. So most folks we see are athletic at least, right? But yeah, you're going to see a large chunk of the people that you love, and then some people that you still enjoy working with, but not that specific niche. But it doesn't have to start that way, right? So just find a clinic that's going to be open to you seeing the people that you want to see, which of course they will, right? What are they going to say? No, I don't want more business. So just keep that in your head, right, when you're starting.
Awesome. Well, Kristen, I hope that helps. I think that's a lot of great advice right here. You have to understand that special population, right? You have to get out in front of that crowd and make sure that they know you understand that. But then that's when it becomes super easy. And a couple of people alluded to this, like in their response a little bit here. But when you're a rowing specialist and a rower comes to you and you know the terminology, you know the stresses that they deal with, you know how their body needs to move during that activity, and you can articulate that and work on that directly, the light bulb goes off in the patient's head right in front of you, and you can see it because they've been to generic PT before on somebody that just doesn't understand your sport or doesn't understand the impact of your sport on your body, right? So keep that in mind. That's what this really comes down to, is you have to get yourself out there in front of those people so they know. But then once you're there, the floodgates open, right? Because you're going to show yourself, you're going to be able to like really hone in on that target population, and then it's a snowball effect, like Dan said, right? Expectations, right? Maybe you start off 10% of your caseload is what you want, but I think your goal is each year you look back and you say, wow, my percentage is a little higher each year until you're having a good time. So Kristen, we're big supporters of that. And Kristen, there's several other people actually the last couple of months that have asked similar questions. So, for those people, looking to do that, I think we encourage it. I think it's super doable. And it's just something you have to just like put your mind to and just say, this is the population I'm going to attack, and you gotta go get it. Right. Well, I remember when Mike Scuduto was getting started and he didn't have enough golf people, he just kept knocking on doors, right? He'd go to golf instructors and he'd infiltrate and he'd kind of start talking to them and learning more things, right? You have to get yourself out there and do that. So great question. If you have questions like that, head to mikereinold.com, click on the podcast link, and you can fill out the form to ask us more questions. And please go to Apple Podcasts and Spotify, rate, review, subscribe, and we'll see you on the next episode. Thanks so much.